Hey there folks, Kozzi here, and welcome back to our budget run-through of Jekk's Bounty for Pick 1, Pack 1. We're now moving up to the Shootout. Wonderful name for a particular mission. And the rule for this particular mission is, when a unit is played, it deals its strength in damage to a random enemy. Now, a couple of things to note. The unit rule applies to both ours as well as our opponent's units, so we're going to be having extra damage flying everywhere. The random enemy can also include players rather than just units on the table, so damage can go directly to face. So this presents an interesting conundrum because I want to play a decent number of units so I can take advantage of this rule, but I also want my units to be able to survive, or the ones that I care about to survive. So this first build that we're going to be running is an adjustment on the Stonescar deck that we used in the first mission. We're still basically relying on using the drones to go as wide as possible. The idea being that if you do happen to hit one of my random units, I want to have as many on the table as possible so you don't hit the ones that I care about or ones that are only a portion of a card. And then we have a bunch of other very cheap one-drops. This is very close to what's known as a Jito deck in Ranked, except for the fact that I'm not running Jito, but feel free to look it up if you enjoy this. We have Blood Beetles, we have Knifejacks, we still have our rare Pyroknights, we have Oni Ronins. And then we have a couple of pieces of removal, a couple of combat tricks in Rapid Shot and Rally, and then we have some Rakano Outlaws as well as a Thornbeast or two to make advantage of the tokens. And then the MVP, most likely, the Shogun Scepter. It makes our creatures big enough to attack you, and it creates a 2-1 which will do 2 damage to somewhere. Happiness is. And then the Tark Return to bring things back. Interestingly, in this deck, the Blood Beetle is a lot better than it normally is because of the Infiltrate ability. If this does its damage directly to my opponent's face, well then the Infiltrate will trigger straight away and it will get its +1 power and flying. So, sweet little combinations here. But yeah, very simple philosophy. If you're going to be pinging me, I want you to ping a third of a card, please. And then the second deck we're going to run through is a budget Rakano Warcry deck. The idea behind this is if we can get a couple of Warcry triggers off, then my creatures are going to be getting bigger than yours. And if they're getting bigger, then they can both survive the damage that you're doing to you, whilst also do more damage to you in turn. So we have a series of budget Warcry creatures. We have the Ronin, the Pyroknight makes an appearance again, Crownwatch Paladin, Minotaur Grunts, Rakano Outlaws, Crownwatch Deserters, Shogun Scepter, the Sword of Ikaria to deal with whatever's on the table, and then Longhorde Sergeants right at the top. We have Inspires to make them bigger, and we also have Finest Owls to protect some of our creatures if need be, or to help out in combat, as well as Torches for removal. We're running slightly higher power than normal to afford the Longhorn Sergeants, and to try and mitigate flooding somewhat, I've got Emerald Monuments instead of just extra power. So there you go, both of these are decks that are trying to grapple with this paradoxical desire. I want to be getting creatures onto the battlefield, but I don't want them to be too vulnerable to the pings that my opponent's creatures are going to be doing. So hopefully this will work for us, and we'll see how it goes in our particular shootout. Let's start off with the Stonescar deck. This is a bit too much power for us, so we're going to throw it back. And whilst I'm not happy drawing 2 combat tricks in this hand, this will do me fine. Ooh, really didn't want to draw another combat trick. So one of the interesting things about this mechanic now is it really comes down to who blinks first. Ordinarily, I'd want to play this Ronin as fast as possible, but if they're going to play something on turn 2, I'd rather it hit my face than my creature, and then I can use my creature to hopefully hit them in return. So there would have been a 50-50 chance of them hitting my Ronin. Instead, now I get to try and take my 50-50 chance of killing their creature instead. We didn't hit, which is a shame. If they attack, I'll happily take the block here. They're definitely on the aggressive foot against us, so we just need to slow them down a bit. Let's see where all of this damage goes from my Grenadin. Could get lucky and do 2 to the creature. Very nice indeed. And so now I've diversified my threats a lot so that if they have a big 4 strength creature or something like that, the chances of them hitting me that I care about are very low because I have so many creatures sitting around now. We have an interesting choice. We could use the rally and get extra damage in. I don't think I want to do that quite yet. I think what I'd rather do is just play all my extra creatures to get as much damage into their face as possible. So if they can only play 1 creature next turn, there's only a 20% chance, or 40% of them hitting one of these 2 cards that I care about. Actually, it's even less because there's me as well, so it would be a 1 out of 6. What's that, 16% chance? So I have access to 5. I can either cast Rally and 2 Rapid Shots. Let's work on the assumption that they take their best block of blocking here. This isn't the best block because it has Overwhelm, which means the extra damage will go through to the face. But assuming they block here and I don't get any damage from my Ronin, and then I cast Rally, I'll do an extra 6 damage on top of 4, which is 10, plus an extra 4 is 14, so we can afford to attack here straight away. 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Yeah, nice and easy. And if they block anywhere else, then we get even more damage in. So that's 7 plus 11 plus 3. There we go. And even though our hand wasn't great, we had too many combat tricks, it still worked out fine for us because we were able to diversify our threats so effectively. Okay, so that one went well. Let's see how this works. Hang on, I just want to make sure I clicked on the right campaign for this. Let's see how this works with the Warcry deck. And I've got to admit, this one, the Warcry is a little bit shakier. I feel as though the Stonescar is very consistent. I'm a little bit nervous having so many 1 health creatures, but we have a sword, we can protect them. We don't have any Warcry other than our sword, but I think it's about the best we can. Definitely better than a whole bunch of mulligans I can imagine having. So what I think I'll do here is I'm going to wait a turn. So that way I can either play 2 if I decide I need to, or I can just play 1 and then keep the finest hour to protect it. It looks as though my opponent hasn't got much to do. So I want to play 2 or 1. I think we'll play both. Gets us on a nice aggressive foot. The only way we really get punished is if they play 2 creatures, and if they've been holding up, or if they've not been playing things on turn 1 and 2, it makes me think it's very unlikely that they have that many creatures. So I could play the Sword of Ikari here, but I'd rather keep up my finest hour protection. They must have a very expensive hand. Or a very dysfunctional hand, which is a little bit of a shame. I'd rather actually show you how this deck works in a proper matchup. Okay, so if I'm to use the Sword of Ikaria now, ordinarily I'd use it straight away, but because whatever creature they can play can possibly ping the sword, I need to think this through. So if I use the sword, I get them down to 8, then I'm attacking with 5 plus the torch. Yeah. Play the power now also, just in case if they do anything in response. So rather than saving this creature, I think we're just going to kill their charge creature, and then we can kill them on the backswing. It's a little bit of a shame. I feel as though we didn't get a chance to really see what this matchup looks like, but occasionally your opponent does just have a hand that pantses itself and does nothing exciting whatsoever. Oh, sorry. I was too busy being upset at the fact that my opponent did something to the extent that I did nothing. So we can keep this one alive. And that's a very powerful and painful piece of equipment to draw. My plan was just to ultimate them instead. So there you have it, folks. Relatively simple for this particular one. All you have to do is to make sure that you think about how to build a deck that both has creatures in it, but are also not so vulnerable to getting pinged. And I think I showed you the two main philosophies. And you can easily build a combre deck that works just like that second Warcry deck. It's just that you're using creatures that are above the normal level of power so that they can survive. Anyway, folks, relatively easy that shootout. We'll see if it's a bit more tricky in the next round when we try to subdue a dinosaur. I've been Kozzi, running through Jekk's Bounty with budget decks for Pick 1 Pack 1. Thanks for spending some of your time with me, and I'll see you guys in just a moment.